And Commissioner Karr is in studio to give us an update in advance of this afternoon's series of meetings. In fact, there's a lot on the couple of agendas today. John, thanks for being here and being available for the Wednesday County Update.
Not a problem.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's like 3 Wednesdays in a row. So, and that's great that we have a representative for the county.
Maybe I should cut back. You're right.
No. We appreciate, again, your being here because there's a lot on the agenda, a lot of moving parts, a lot of things are happening. Beginning with this afternoon's Board of Fire Commissioners meeting, that starts at 1:15, and the chief, Matt Peterson, is going to be giving a report, kind of bringing us up to date on any number of things that the fire department, fire district's been doing. But there are some capital expenditures on here, and isn't it nice to have that?
A couple, they're older trucks, 2004, 2006, I forgot the exact date on them, but he's doing a great job on getting rid of our really old antiquated stuff, the 40, 50-year-old just junk you can get parts for, gasoline still engines, those kind of, just getting rid of the junk. Where these are, while they're older, they're in stations that aren't used a lot, and they're common enough we can still get parts. So normally I wouldn't be jumping up and down about a 2006 or 4 or whatever the two models were. But no, they were very common, lots of parts, and I think it's a good decision.
So that will be up for consideration again, the budgeted purchase approvals. It's about $140,000 for the one Type 6 fire engine, right? And then we're looking.
Correct.
And then you're also going to get an update from the Great Basin Coordination Center on the fire season potential for this year.
Obviously, before the next 3 days, it looked like, heck, we're in the gravy. No, not a big deal. But all of a sudden, we're hitting the 80s already, 90s. No, if that's going to how we're starting the summer, then wow, we could get an ugly one.
Just wanted to make a note, too, that the fire chief in his presentation will be giving a report. There are 14 enrolled students for the 2024-25 school year in school programs, and I believe that's the program that would encourage them to pursue, fire service, wildland firefighting. That's great for the academy, for the Spring Creek High School, and just the hazard plans that the fire chief has put in place, because mitigation is a huge part of reducing the risk of fire and destroying homes and property.
Absolutely. I think we're tenfold better than we were years ago. So Matt's done a great job, him and his team. Then you start talking about the emergency manager, Willie Cavanis, and then throw in dispatch as a whole emergency unit. Once again, I'm shocked how well we've improved. We still have things to fix, don't get me wrong. Dispatches still have some problems, upgrades, and some of our radios and communication there, but still it's leaps and bounds better than we were.
In fact, I believe that's on the regular county commission agenda when that meeting starts at 1:30 today, John, and there'll be some discussion not only on reviewing and updating the county fire protection infrastructure tax plan, looking at, again, some major purchases as we talked about, but also I believe there is a purchase approval for the enhanced 911 system.
Correct.
All right. So we covered those areas. We'll kind of jump in and look over. There are some really unique items on the agenda. I think it's important for people to know. Elko County, first of all, we'll be getting a Mormon cricket update, which, that's really the talk of the town.
I don't know how we're going to get an update, because every time you hear something, it's counter to what you've heard before. They run in 2 or 3 year cycles about every 10 years. Well, then they run in 5 to 7 year cycles, and you just let them go. No, the more you kill, the more they're going to not reproduce. But I'm always open for hearing more information.
All right. So hopefully we can just get through this current wave of Mormon cricket invasion. And Elko County experienced a 23.28% increase in the insurance pool, and the overall increase is 12.6%. So that is going to have a significant impact, right, on the budget, John?
Yeah, we can't sustain those kind of percent increases. We all have inflation problems. But wow, that's crazy. But the school district had the same problem last year. They started researching more, because we're all in the POOL Pact, on why is it going up that much. But I think in this case, we're going to demand an itemized review, because it just says vague stuff like, okay, more personnel, more value in our property, et cetera, et cetera. I want it broken out in an actual spreadsheet of, okay, the courthouse, for example, or what is this that our property values are so much more? how many more people? We do have more people because of the fire district, but those are covered under the grants from NV Energy and those kind of things. So we would increase that substantially, but that's paid for those grants. So I'm just a little bewildered myself and asking more questions on why we're getting such a steep raise.
So this will be likely a informative presentation. There's no action set for this. It's Nevada Public Agency Insurance Pool, and it will certainly identify some of the most significant contributing factors to the change in premiums for Elko County. As you just mentioned, increase in exposure, such as number of employees, the number of covered vehicles, for example, as you just talked about with a fire district. So it's, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. This does say for possible action, but I'm not sure what the actionable item would be other than just accepting those presentations.
I guess we could try to pull out a POOL Pact, but
that would be sort of extreme.
Yeah, I don't think that'd be a good position to be in, because we still get a much better package deal than we would if we went on our own. So we'll just keep asking questions of what's going on.
All right. So maybe look for future agenda items on that or discussion depending on what happens today. So that's one of the big items. And as we already mentioned, the Fire Protection District, there is agendized a presentation on the Boys and Girls Club Event Center, but you've indicated?
Correct. That'll be tabled. I think Rusty's overwhelmed with the concert for tomorrow night, the fundraiser country concert, and wanted to get some more information, so we're going to be tabling that item.
Okay. We did hear from the Assistant City Manager yesterday, Scott Wilkinson, on this program, John, that the city is, during the June 11th meeting, the regular council meeting, they're looking at least reserving, those were the words he used, reserving some 5.6 acres. It's a triangular piece of property on East Jennings, which would be in the vicinity of that bus barn property held
Correct.
by the school district, right? So they're looking at holding that, reserving it for a proposed event center.
That was one of the options. I was assuming that's going to be the one they're going to try to go forward with, but since I haven't heard as well, I'm not positive on that, but that's probably where it'll be
All right.
proposed.
Now, we do know that there is some sort of a deadline, though, on the $15 million, right, of when that needs to be either appropriated to Boys and Girls Club for an event center, or because is it art money, or can the county just continue to build on that in reserve?
Everything I've read, just talking with Rand and Susan, no, we can hold that for as long as we need to. But as a county commissioner, no, I'm not going to let it just sit for years and years and years without a true proposal in hand that we agree to.
Yeah, and there are a lot of, and we're going to see that on the agenda today, a lot of capital needs that the county is currently expressing. I mean, they just seem to keep piling up. There is discussion reallocating some $56,000 from library's fiscal year budget so they can build a new circulation desk, and they have a quote on that. So that'll be up for discussion. And is it for possible action, I guess, for possible approval?
The library is kind of an interesting entity. They're their own, I don't want to say world, that's the wrong language, obviously, but we do have some oversight. But they do have their own library board, and they have their own property tax increment. So they're kind of their own entity. I'd almost be curious if we went, no, you're not allowed to do it, what would happen? But so yes, we have oversight, but yet not a lot as well. It's kind of like the fairgrounds. We have overall oversight, but yet they're their own autonomy. And a land grant institution to boot. So Correct. They have a state connection. And then you might consider like the sheriff's office, because we have an elected sheriff, but he doesn't get to, his budget has to come through the county commission. So Correct. Well, we can stamp down the library or the fairgrounds if they're going over their budget. If ITOR, for whatever reason, goes over his budget, then it really gets weird. So we ran into that with our previous sheriff and our comptroller arguing about how much they were over budget and those kind of things. So right now, we're lucky we don't have that issue. Well, we're really lucky that we are in a different time. I can remember even before the courthouse annex, John, and you might have been away at college, but these kinds of issues, commissioners almost came to fisticuffs over some of this budget stuff that was going on. And you heard about some of those hijinks in the past? I remember, exciting. Tony Lesbronce, Mike Manini. Yes. I was from the front row because we were talking about the shovel brigade and fire, problems with brush fire and grazing and all that, even back then. So I don't remember if I was back from college or just going in the summer from college, but yes, you're right. I was a I was a youngster.
Yeah, I was there, Ross Andresen from the Free Press, and we both said, did anybody have any tape rolling on that? That was crazy. Nobody had any.
Yeah, the sheriff happened to just be there, standing there, and separated them.
Yep, the sheriff had to step in, and I believed it was over the sheriff's budget, but it could have been obviously over something else. So who knows? Yeah. Interesting little, we digress, don't we?
They interrupted Tony, and he had a fit, and now they were...
Yeah, so we just brought back a blast from the past for your consideration. Board of Highway Commissioners, some big expenditures here. Were these surprising bids on this, John? One at Q&D at 2.7, and the engineer's estimate was 1.7.
You know, I'm looking forward to hearing why. I'm not on the highway board with those, so I didn't see these numbers until this agenda came out. So I'm looking at figuring out why. Oil is at $80 a barrel, so it's definitely expensive, but I'm curious of why $1 million over. We have inflation right now, but not that kind of, so I don't know what the deal is and why.
And this would be for the Lucky Nugget Road Phase 2 reclamation and paving. Some people may be saying, where's Lucky Nugget? I mean, but if you live out there, it's important, and it is part of our recreation highway network, is it not, out by South Fork?
It is out by South Fork, so a little bit of this would be the turnoff to Jet Ski Beach and those kind of things. But it is surprising the traffic we have out there. This is all based on traffic counts. We don't have somebody goes, no, I'm a jet skier, don't want my boat bouncing or something, so let's pave that. No, it is on traffic counts and population out there, and there's reason why we're paving that road.
And it's not because it's a county commissioner saying, I'd like to have the road in front of my house paved.
Exactly. Like we have no commissioners living out there. And so, no, this is really based on some data.
All right. Looking over the county commission agenda for today's meeting at 1:30. And I know listeners, you think, gosh, she is being facetious today. But these are some actual true things that happened in the past. So interesting.
Oh, yeah. And some of the capital that you brought up, the reason why is Elko County was so... They didn't want to raise taxes, so they're very fiscally conservative, and which I try to be as well, but you also still have to spend money, or guess what? It will eventually either be too small, you outgrow it, or you haven't done the upgrades, and now you have huge reasons to rebuild it because it's now falling apart. And for years and years and years, I believe that's what happened. And that's why we're so far behind on some of these capital. But we also didn't have a revenue source, and they didn't want to raise taxes to keep up.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, John. And now, we have better roads, obviously. We have fire protection. There's some significant needs that are being met, and looking at other capital needs too. And as we were just talking about, State Route 227 is limited as the only access between the city of Elko and community of Spring Creek. We've seen on numerous occasions what happens when, for any reason, that route gets shut down, whether from accident or wildfire. And we got a whole bunch of response to Commissioner Andriozzi's call for proposals on what's the feasibility of a second roadway or second access.
Right, so that's why we're going to hire one of these firms and see what they're recommending, especially studying where's the most efficient route, but also looking at future growth of where that should be. Like we talked about one of our other radio stations, whether it should be east of town or west of town, where's the growth of Spring Creek? And my guess is going to be west of Spring Creek is more of the growth area towards the South Fork area, but that's kind of what they'll tell us. Yeah,
there'll be a feasibility study built into this, and staff should be able to negotiate, I guess, once the commissioners weigh in on what their priorities are. Is that what the goal is today?
Correct.
Okay, so that'll be up for, and again, if you're a Spring Creek resident, this is probably pretty important to you. Well, I shouldn't say just Spring Creek, but if you are out in Spring Creek and you're looking for, say, emergency access, that would definitely be a consideration. So,
well, that's part of what we're going to look at is not only emergency access, but would be a second access just for traffic control and future growth. So, no, we hopefully have a document living that'll say, hey, yes, for the next 5 years, a quick, easy emergency would be this, but long-term, 2-lane highway here or something. I don't know, but that's what I'm envisioning happens with this report.
And I think you will have, or you have had in the past, participants from, say, the city of Elko, right? Because there could be some financial consideration or regional partnership.
I'm assuming as well. And quite honestly, the emergency manager in Karr before actually had some of this down as a report, and we have that.
And at Karr, yes.
Sorry, that's what I was trying to say. We have some of this information, but this will help a longer term on where we can build it on. Yeah. So that when we had the train debacle on underneath 12th Street, I think we would have, if we'd have followed that plan, we wouldn't have had near the traffic problems. It was actually very well put together. Just the highway patrol, the city and the county, nobody opened the book, and
we hadn't dusted it off for a while.
That, and yeah, there was some difficulty on communication of, well, that's not our problem. That's in town versus out of town. And
yeah, we all need to work together.
I'm not going to say which department did that, but it wasn't the county.
No, and I don't believe it was the city or the county. I think I understood it was a state agency. So.
Correct.
Okay. So moving on, obviously we can learn lessons because there were miraculously no injuries, and there was nothing ruptured in that train derailment, but that was a significant event for Elko, a huge wake-up call.
And there was on a total side note, how I get sidetracked, there was a report out that it was a broken weld. And this is a prime example of Joe Lombardo, our governor, shouldn't have vetoed a bill on public safety that would have helped on trains. Well, I want to publicly announce and no, that is complete garbage. That it was actually the rail itself broke. And if we would have passed that, we'd have spent a lot more taxpayer state money just on monitoring frivolous things, because there's no way we're going to go to the factory and have a state Nevada employee at the ironworks factory that's making sure their metallurgy is perfect on every single rail. So that's complete baloney.
So it's just, again, as you mentioned earlier in the broadcast, it's about, oversight, maintenance, making sure that, our bridges and rails and highways are safe and maintained. So all overall.
And obviously 12th Street was designed somewhat correctly. It took the impact and it's fine.
Talking with our county commissioner, of course, John Karr, in advance of this afternoon's regular fire protection meetings at 1:15, the regular county meetings at 1:30. Get My Ride transit service is on the agenda, and this is about a grant application. And I think most people feel really good about Get My Ride, John. I mean, it may not have tons and tons of people using public transit, but I know the ones that do really rely on the service.
I agree, but I believe, once again, we have to be very careful that this doesn't become a taxpayer taxi. It needs to be very specific. I wish we would stop advertising, because I don't want it to be a taxpayer taxi service that I don't want to pay the taxi, but I need to go to the groceries every Wednesday, so I'll just get that. It's a free ride. No, that's not what I believe in my mind it's intended for.
I don't think anybody would do that, though. That's kind of inconvenient.
It does happen, and we also deliver a lot of children that should be bused, and people want variances, and they go, no, I want my kid at Grammar. Even though I'm in the north side, a bus will not take my variant kid to Grammar because I'm asking for the variance, so Get My Ride does it. You will see Get My Ride at almost every school. It's happening. I disagree with it, but I think we just got to be careful with this program. It's one of those ones I don't want us to always go, man, look how many more people we helped. We're not trying to make this our biggest department. There's a need for it, and don't get me wrong, especially veterans and some of the less fortunate. But
well, senior citizens.
Exactly. But we're not, once again, trying to now get a bigger department than the sheriff's office.
So what do you think about the agenda item then? Discussion and consideration to approve a 5-year ground transportation service agreement with SkyWest Airlines.
Well, it's for their, if I remember reading correctly, their pilots, their employees, their personnel. And we are trying to subsidize to keep them here. So it's one of those necessary. I really do not want to see Elko not have air service. So whatever we have to do to support it.
To be completely fair, and I don't know when the last time, I don't even know if we have a private service available. I don't think we have Uber. I don't think we have, what's the other? Uber or
Lyft.
Lyft. I don't think.
We don't. As far as I know, I tried, because I use Uber in Reno and wherever else, and tried to get one here, and it said, oh, we're contacting your driver. I'm like, oh, maybe I'm wrong. Well, yeah, an hour later, you're going, okay, no, it's just the app saying that.
Right.
I contacted Uber personally, and they said, well, I'm not a corporate entity. I go, I didn't realize that. I'm a community agency and want to know what it would take to get here. What are our options? And it was kind of bizarre, like, no, we don't answer those questions. Well, okay, I just want to see what it would take or why we're not. I know Elko Taxi is struggling just because insurance companies just don't want to fund that kind of stuff anymore. And so they're struggling on insurance. And then when you throw these in and struggling people to find jobs. So no, it's a hard industry. So I hope we don't lose the taxi service, but we might. And if Uber and Lyft don't come here, I think it's one of those things we need.
And then we do depend on Get My Ride.
To Get My Ride 3 times bigger because we're shuttling more. So we'll have to keep an eye on what happens.
Thanks, John. County Assessor's Office is also on the agenda. They are looking at spending about $750,000, or at least, the technology fund, and that's frankly what it takes for some of these systems.
It is shocking, some of these software systems. You're thinking you and I go get Microsoft on your laptop for $1,200. What's the deal? Or QuickBooks for $1,000, whatever. But no, that's what these software companies charge. They're big. Huge amounts of database, and we've had some problems in the past one that we chose, so we were switching over to a new one so we don't have the problems we had. It's amazing, as you and I were talking earlier, the AS400 system from IBM way back in the days was used for years. I don't know, 20, 30, 40 years, whatever it was, and everybody seems to still struggle with a new technology that has the database from those old days.
Yeah, it does seem like, as I'd suggested, that, when we start to monetize every little thing, then it just becomes impossible with all the upgrades. And so that's on the agenda today. And that's money from the general fund, John, the $731,000, or
correct.
Okay, but there is a technology fund specifically. And then also on the agenda under Elko County Natural Resources, this is kind of happy news because this has been a work in process for, a couple of decades, I think, and that is applying for, I guess I call it a FLAP grant, Federal Lands Access Program, to construct the Humboldt Rubies Trail, which is a separated paved bike path that would run from Carlin to Spring Creek.
I hope it eventually goes through, but it's definitely got a significant price tag. So
it's $30 million.
Yeah. So it's my guess, if it can be broken up, you'll see portions here and there and stuff. But the group that's pushing for it are very active, and I support their cause. We'll see what happens. It
would connect assets, as it describes communities and assets, and things like the California Trail. They support it. The center supports it. South Fork, obviously, State Park, and it's incredible when you think about the federal resources. When you tap into these, you can swing money like this our way. It's happened before. And you got to decide what you're asking for. If we're talking about a mountain bike trail, a paved trail, how fancy we're trying to be. If it comes a mountain bike trail, then you're going to have the guys with the side-by-sides, the dirt bikes, everything else. But they're also the ones that usually use them enough that keeps the weeds down, and those are the trails that are usable. So it's a nonstop battle. I've been fighting that since I was a dirt biker, but yet the mountain bikers wanted the trail, but wouldn't use it enough, so it'd overgrow again. So there you go. It is kind of ironic, though. At the same time, we're searching for a secondary route for vehicle traffic between Elko and Spring Creek. That'd be about $30 million. It'd be about $30 million. So, but not to take away from the work of the Humboldt Rubies Trail in this group, because again, they're actually managing 2 separate trail systems right now. So they're looking at doing. So it's been a long project. Let's see, just in the interest of time, I want to make sure there is, this is pretty exciting. Not to gloss over weed control and pest abatement, because we know those are really important, but that is on the agenda. But lithium exploration project located near Jackpot. We'd heard rumors of this for a while, and now we've got a letter dated May 15th on BLM letterhead, so... I'm obviously for it. I was a chemical engineer in the gold mining days. Lithium's the hot commodity on the battery world. It doesn't surprise me they've found some of these deposits. But I know permitting-wise, if it's you and I are having a bet, I don't think we're seeing anything for 6 to 8 years, if not 10, which is disappointing. But that would be my wager if we're done throwing dice at the Stockman or something, or Red Lion or Maverick, I guess. And it's fortunate. I think just the paperwork, how much studies have to be done. I guarantee Western Watersheds and the other likes will be countersuing on everything they can do on here. Or Great Basin Mine Watch, they'll be even throwing their lawsuits in. So no, my guess 6 to 8, 10 years before you ever see a shovel break ground. So the project is about 20 miles southeast of Jackpot. The operator would propose to disturb about 250 acres within 7,800 acres of the project area. And again, it's just in the very beginning stage, analyzing potential impacts of the proposed Nevada North lithium exploration project. So I guess you'll get an update on that today, right? On the agenda. There you go. All right. Natural Resources Community Development is looking to hire a couple of part-time temporary seasonal employees, and they would be assisting with Mormon cricket abatement. We know the assistant county manager, natural resources manager, Curtis Moore, he's been leading the charge on the crickets.
Correct. And yeah, we don't have enough or have the time for him to be out doing that kind of things. A couple part-timers, staggering days and all, and I think it'd be much more effective. I am going to be in communication with Senator Masto on some, I think there's $6 million federal funds that's normally used for near expensive crops and that sort of thing, but we'll see if we can get some money for Elko County in the budget as well.
The district attorney's office is asking for a full-time deputy DA, and that's the fiscal impact would be about $180,000 for salary and benefits. Any problems with that, do you think?
We just got to look at it overall on the budget, but Tyler's a sharp guy, and if he really needs it, then I believe that's probably what he needs.
Yeah, the DA's office, I mean, if you just look at the people coming in and out of jail this week, I don't think I've seen, there were so few arrests in the booking sheet this morning, John, but they were for very serious felonies, like almost each and every one, a handful of them, I thought.
Which take a lot of time.
Absolutely. So that sounds like a valid request.
And then they'll probably use a public defender, which takes a lot of time on that, which I know why we have the system. I'm glad we do, and we have a lot of talent on both sides, but let's say it's going to take a lot of time.
Then there's a capital funding request of $20,000 to buy bollards and chain in front of the old bank building, replacing the Jersey barriers. Do you know why we would need to do that? Why the barriers are there?
More of a looks.
Oh, just for how it looks. Okay. So that's a recommendation from the budget committee, I guess, or from it. Yeah. Courthouse security.
Correct.
All right. Well, and that moves us to the discussion for planning, programming, and design. I know I've got to get you out on time, but for the jail expansion, phase one is $25,000. Sheriff Narvaeza talked about that quite a bit. And it looks as though staff is recommending $4 million to construct the project. But is that realistic in light of what?
Well, I think that's why we're doing this study to go. $4 million. I mean, the school district, what they get for what ended up being $5 or something like that.
Hardly buys you a parking lot.
And yeah, that's moving 30-year-old trailers.
This isn't a 50-bed behavioral health unit with the nursing stations built in. So. Yeah. So
$4 million, yeah, we're probably underestimating, but we'll study it and see. Maybe you and I are wrong. Let's hope we are.
Oh yeah, because the footprint is there. This would build out the jail. Did you ever think that, John, that we would have to build out this entire footprint of the jail?
Well,
That'll
obviously,
be it.
Someday we know we have to, but I sure wasn't hoping now.
Yeah. So that will be. I know the sheriff talked about. He thought maybe $5 to $7 million, and I thought he was being optimistic there. So that'll be up for discussion and moving forward. And do you agree, though? I guess it's fair to ask all the commissioners: is this a need for Elko County to expand this jail?
Yeah, I haven't been hearing as much on the fentanyl as we were about a year ago, but it's definitely still there. And one of the problems with fentanyl is you don't come off it as quick. So if somebody comes in there on fentanyl and having emotional distress, is that a nice way to say completely having issues, violent, whether towards themselves or towards somebody else, they have to be basically equivalent of solitary confinement in their own room. Well, normally if it's the old school drugs or alcohol or whatever, you could get away with 24 hours and boom, put them with regular because it comes out of their system. Fentanyl was anywhere from 3 to 5, 6 days. And that was really the problem. We didn't have enough single cells for those kind of things. So it's still a problem, but no, eventually, especially the behavioral health, we're going to need to expand. So I don't think it's quite the emergency it was 6 months ago, but no, it's still right there on that brink.
All right, and that ties in with this final agenda item, which we can get to today, which is the county's portion for an interlocal agreement between Department of Public and Behavioral Health. We now have an Elko County Health Board, $253,000 toward $15 million allocation to be divided among health districts. There
you go. You know as much as I do about that one.
Okay.
We'll get more on that. Delmo wants to get more on that department.
Yes, it's true. Delmo does head up the county health board, and we really appreciate the services of that continued health board. It brings together some really important issues quarterly. It's when they meet.
Bryce Putnam does a great job.
Oh, Dr. Putnam is amazing.
Spent some serious hours.
Yes, and he has and he is a full-time professional with Nevada Health Centers. He's the practicing dentist there, and so. Dr. Putnam, shout out to you and all of your staff, really. And I know I need to send you downtown, but a couple quick things. I'm going to be doing 2 interviews this afternoon of 2 of the candidates who are running for Nevada Senate District 19. And I just wanted to ask you, John, is there any issue or thing in particular that you think that I should ask? That it would have to be something I could ask both candidates or both people seeking the Senate 19. Do you think there's any one particular pressing issue?
Well, one thing that's pressing here locally is this paper ballot. Do either one of them have any desire to try to change that in the legislation? I personally don't see a reason to, and I think it's insanity myself. But if just to see if either one of those want to push for, or even changing how the paper ballot system works. There's a Missouri plan out there that everybody thinks we should be easily going through hand counting, follow Missouri plan, and then
I thought that was for electing judges.
Well, there's a Missouri plan on how to count the ballots.
Oh, okay.
And they make it sound like, man, it's just easy as butter, and we go and sit around the campfire afterwards and eat our s'mores because kumbaya just happened. And I think it's completely ridiculous. But it is a valid question to these 2 running for that candidate whether they want to change the law or allow it or what they'd like to do.
All right, John, thank you for that consideration.
The other one I'll be asking that, well, I think it's too preliminary. I'm going down to the American Nuclear Society conference down in Las Vegas, and I'll be on a panel speaking there in a week and a half. But it's too preliminary to be asking them for any kind of changes in whether it be Yucca Mountain or any kind of nuclear plants or anything in the state of Nevada. But after that conference, I'll be coming back and giving some information.
Yeah, I think Georgia is a state we can look at, right? Haven't they recently?
They just finished a nuclear power plant there that took years and years to build and over budget. But when we start talking solar to being 20,000 homes, 80,000 homes, no, this is 2.5 million homes type size, and it should run another 30, 40 years. So I'm a big fan of nuclear, and I think it's too bad how much bad hype it got in the 70s. The old Jane Fonda China Syndrome movie and all that kind of baloney really scared people off. And I think we'd have much cheaper power now, and electric vehicles on it would not be something we were hoping to have. We just have because it'd be more efficient, and there you go. Well,
and John, as we send you out the door, I just wanted to acknowledge that you've been invited to speak on this panel. Now, that's significant.
Yeah, I was talking, there were 4 or 5 nuclear physicists, nuclear engineers and all that. I was on a Zoom call with them. So yeah, I really had to scrub off my degree and get back into technical speaking. But yes, I'm kind of excited to be on there and feel privileged to be, as a politician, pushing for nuclear, but also receiving that information on the new technologies. It's not recycling nuclear waste, so we'd abandon Yucca Mountain. It would be not using Yucca Mountain because that spent waste is actually fuel on the new reactors, and you don't need to recycle it or throw it in the old Yucca Mountain and bury it. You actually use it, and we have fuel that's already there. So we don't have to go dig it up. We don't have to process it to begin with. No, the fuel we have now, the new reactors that they're proposing, could use that spent fuel. And it's almost free energy other than building the plant.
Wow. So it's definitely a turn in the conversation, John. And obviously the fear of burying 10,000 years, it stays radioactive for 10,000 years. Burying all that waste from around the country in one place, that has generated all this longstanding fear, as you said, since the 70s. So interesting new conversation on the topic. So you'll come back?
I definitely hope so. Come back and give my report on why and what information I get from it.
Well, and I do want to say, too, you mentioned being a politician, but you do have a degree.
Chemical engineering from UNR, but I don't use it very often in the restaurant world. But yes, that is my background. Well,
that's important because that is that qualifies you to have these conversations, John. So I would want people to understand that you're not a rocket scientist, literally, but you're being able, to discuss these topics, and you have the qualifications to do that. So that's really cool.
I at least understand their lingo. They start talking fast breeder reactors and molten sodium and these kind of things. I gotta remember back, but yes, I've kept up on a little bit of the technology.
All right. Well, thanks, John. Appreciate the conversation, and come back. As we've said, we hold these Wednesday shows open for county updates, and oftentimes the county takes us up on it, and you really do, and we appreciate it because it gives us this information we need. So thanks.
Well, once again, we're going to leave on our world peace comment. I love that saying because of the ridiculousness of some of the comments from the candidates, but I do encourage people to vote. 100%. That is BS if you don't think your vote matters. It does.
It does, even if you are not a Republican, because there's not much on the ballot for other folks.
Yes, and I've said that more than once. Please register to be a Republican if you're not, so you can vote. A lot of these elections, whether it be county, the clerk, the sheriff, all these positions are mostly Republican candidates.
It's true. Or advocate for open primaries. That's another topic for another day.
There you go.
Thanks, John. John Karr is our Elko County Commissioner and our guest on Elko Live today, heading to the County Fire District meeting at 1:15, the regular County Commission meeting at 1:30 today.